welcome to Beyond the Strikes, and I'm delighted to say that we're joined by Serena, the Southpaw Outlaw DeJesus. Serena, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's a great way to start the day, right?
Exactly, yeah, very early for you, so really appreciate it. Did you manage to get a cup of coffee?
No, but that's okay. Right after this, I'm going to be teaching students. I'll just go run and get a cup of coffee and just teach my little student, go home, and then, finish the rest of my day.
Excellent. Well, our first section is called From the Start. So let's take a whirlwind tour through your early years. And the first questions are, where did you grow up and what was it like to grow up there?
So I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I lived there until 2016, where I moved full-time to Las Vegas. But I liked Philadelphia. It was a really nice, lively city. Very accessible, no matter if you're walking, if you're driving, and it was very pretty. We don't have all the four seasons out here in Vegas like they do, over in Philadelphia, but I do not miss the snow. I will say that. I don't miss the snow whatsoever.
No,
But
you
I
definitely
liked
more of a
Philadelphia.
warm weather person.
Yeah. I kind of went from one extreme to the other because, although we don't have snow, what we do have is we have excessive heat. Like most Americans, I'm horrible at Celsius, but we're sitting at 117 degrees Fahrenheit and stuff sometimes. So in the summer, everybody who's coming in from town, they're melting. They're like, oh God. So, but the city of Philadelphia was really fun. It was full of history. I got my start with fighting over there, and then it was great. It just took me from one place to another.
Yeah, and I love that we've started off talking about weather because I think it's like such a stereotype being British that we always talk about the weather, but it's so true. We always do. We're like fascinated by the weather around the world. Um, so one of the reasons that we were so determined to get you on the show is that we really think you're truly an inspiration. For those that don't know, Serena is the first pro female autistic MMA fighter. So we're just wondering if you could take us through what it's like to live with autism and how it influences your approach to MMA.
Okay, so first we got to go all the way back to the beginning. So when I was little, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I'm a child of the 90s. ADHD was everywhere. It was in the water, it was in the air. It seemed to be all over the place. And I was put on, Ritalin and stuff at age 4, which was kind of screwy. But as I got older, the diagnosis and therefore the medications I was given would change. And it wasn't until I was 13 when I was in a residential treatment facility, they're like, the therapist who was observing me is like, I want to take her off all the medications and I want to watch her for a week. And up to this point, since I could barely remember, I was on medicines. Something, oh boy, how long was this one going to last? And then when she came and brought my family in and myself in, she's like, she's autistic. And she started reading about what autism was and everything. I, for the first time, was like, okay, this actually might be making sense versus somebody just pulling something out there, And my parents were fascinated by it. And then, I got a case manager who worked with me from when I was 13 till I was 20. But I don't think I really started really socializing and starting to really fit in with people until I started training, because there's a really fun aspect about being in a gym is nobody cares who you are, what you got, are you, they want to make sure you're doing well in your training, you're working hard, and people come and help you with it. Training set at a set time, at a set day. So it's, for me, at least, it's really easy on me, So I just fell in love with training that, and because I just loved fighting since I was a little girl. So as a 5-year-old, my reward for doing really well in school was getting a VHS tape from the video store. I know I've dated myself a little bit. So I watched anime. I was watching
I'm
anime.
definitely,
Yeah.
I'm 90s generation, so yeah, you're talking to,
Okay.
yeah, I get it.
I was watching anime before Pokemon and Sailor Moon took over, but Sailor Moon was also my jam. And I'd also play a lot of fighting games like Tekken, Street Fighter. I still play Tekken to this day as King. Like no one can ever make me not play as King on Tekken. And so I come downstairs and my dad is watching the infamous Paul Herrera versus Gary Goodridge match. And I see the whole crucifix transition. I'm thinking, what? Because it reminds me of some like crazy grappling thing that King, again, from Tekken will be doing. I'm like, so this is Tekken and Sailor Moon and Power Rangers in real life? Sign me up. And so as time went on, after high school, like I had really no physical outlets. And I knew if I went to college and I was working, I would go insane. So I saw a local gym that was offering jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and I'm thinking this is perfect because at the very least I can be an educated fan because I don't know about you, but I'm tired about, people like being all like, oh, do this, do that. And they're like drunk off their ass. They have no idea what they're talking about. Or better yet, the twist his dick, that whole thing you hear from people in the crowds. So I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah,
But
I think the worst
that,
one I've heard when I was in the crowd, I think there was one which was like, punch him in the face, just repeatedly saying, punch him in the face, punch him in the face. It's just like, oh.
Thanks, guy. I didn't think of that, right?
Yeah. It's like, we're talking to elite athletes here. It's like, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, but it was so funny because my first classes turned into my first grappling tournaments, and my first grappling tournaments turned my first Muay Thai fights, and even took me to train out in Thailand for a month. And then my first time, after my first Muay Thai fights, it took me to my first amateur fights, which is where I met my best friend and mentor, Roxanne Modafferi. And then it led me staying out in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think you touched upon something in terms of being in the gym and kind of being a real leveler. And I've always felt that MMA as a sport, at even the highest level, is one of the most inclusive sports in the world. It's like you've got lots of different headliners from all around the world, and it doesn't matter the gender. So I've always felt that MMA, for all the negative press it used to get, it always felt like, come on, look at it in a different way. This is such an inclusive sport here. And yeah, it's great to hear. And so in terms of your approach to a fight, I guess comparing it to other fighters, is there anything in particular that having autism means that you have to approach it slightly differently?
I kind of have my little behaviors I do beforehand, things I just like to do to just kind of calm my nerves. The introduction of CBD into my routine has been really wonderful because CBD is legal in and out of competition. It's not like I'm having weed or whatever where I'm like trippy backstage or anything. It's just like, okay, here's my oil, everybody knows what's in it. Hi. And then it just helps with my nerves. It just helps me focus in and kind of drown out all the background noise. I'm also plugged up in my ears. Like I normally wear noise canceling headphones everywhere. And because of my sensory issues, like my glasses, if I'm out in the sun, will go dark. So, that's why I kind of put my hood up and I wear a hat until it's kind of time to go. Because at least in my head, when I take off my hat, when I take off my hoodie and I take these off, it's kind of like, it's that little internal signal, like it's go time. Everything else is out the door. It's time to get real. And I put it on there, I'd like to think. I'm very big on the hand slanging.
Yes, I know. Always exciting fights. Definitely always exciting. And so that focus, do you feel like you get that focus from all of that? And it's just so important when you're going in to have that focus to kind of keep, to like get you through it.
Yeah. And I'm a very dedicated individual. Like I used to have hair that was kind of down to here, but I had to give myself a bit of a close shave one of my fights because I had hair like kind of a little bob.
Yeah.
My math skills are apparently really, really horrible. So for the first time since the pandemic, I was in a COVID bubble for my last fight at Invicta. And what happened was I couldn't leave the gym, or I couldn't leave the hotel to go to a gym to use the saunas. So I borrowed a teammate's portable sauna. So I'm looking like the brave little toaster Netflix adaptation. And I like to boil and just get it over with. Like it hurt. Like for me, my sensory issues, extreme temperature changes hurts. Ice baths hurt. Saunas over time hurt. So while I'm starving and without water, where your body's senses are heightened to find sustenance, it freaking hurts being in there. But I do it anyways. But the problem was the portable sauna only went to like 144 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm like, all right, so if I do it like this, maybe I'll be okay. And whoops, I did my math wrong and I had to go kind of do a little bit of shuffling. And then I had a minute to weigh in. And I'm on the scale and then I'm like 3 ounces over. So I'm like, you know what, Mom, just cut my hair. Because my mom was a hairdresser when I was a little girl. So I'm like, Mom, just cut it. And my poor mom is crying on like seeing her kid, you know, you're seeing your kids suffer and now they're getting their hair cut on the scale in front of like a room full of strangers. You know, it's kind of like, I can see where
so
she was
surreal.
crying.
That must have been such a surreal experience.
For her it was, but for me, I'm just like, I'm going to be Captain Marvel. I'm going to have my hair cut. I'm going to be great. Because during the pandemic, I took my mom through the entire Marvel MCU since we're all like inside the house anyways. And now she's a Marvel fan with me. So I was trying to calm her down. Like my coach, Marvin Eastman's getting mad at the one commissioner who's laughing. He was probably nervous laughing, but I don't care. So I have to handle my coach about to like go full on beast man on this one dude. My mom's crying. I'm just like, let's just weigh in already. Made the weight. I'm like, yeah, you know, get up the scale, rehydrate, you know, and I had fun the next day.
Yeah, God. I mean, and I guess it's that's when that focus comes into it, doesn't it? It's kind of, and you never know what fight week's going to throw up. You can plan to your best of your ability, but I guess that's life, isn't it? You never know what's coming around the corner with things. So yeah, that focus. And you mentioned about having annoying noise cancelling in. Do you listen to music? Is it music or is it just?
A lot.
Yeah, what sort of music are you into?
I have a very eclectic taste. I can go anywhere from Run the Jewels to Dolly Parton. So if I vibe with it, I vibe with it. Like people can feel free to send me their like favorite songs and stuff. Like I had a Twitter fan actually send me they knew I liked Sabaton. So they sent, which is power metal. So they sent me Powerwolf. So I'm like, all right, I fucks with this. This is cool. And so it's just like, everybody, please send me your musical, you know, choices. They'll eventually find their way to my Spotify list. So
okay, I'm going to send you some English music. Some of our cool bands that are particularly from the 90s as well. So I reckon you'll like it.
I like it. There's one band I'm not quite sure if they're English or not that I like. I love the Struts. The Struts are dope.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm thinking in my head, Oasis. Do you know Oasis?
Of course I do. I'm about to say, if I didn't know Oasis, somebody better throw me over the balcony. Like Oasis was like a big staple in the 90s for like on all alternative rock stations.
Exactly. So yeah, it's kind of like the soundtrack to my life, Oasis. And then the other band I'm thinking, so a little bit later on, but the Libertines, they're a little bit more
I've heard of them. Yes.
Okay, I'll send you some Libertine stuff. I think you'll like them. They're cool. Really cool band.
Okay.
And then in terms of walkout song, do you have a specific walkout song that you like to walk to the cage in with?
I really don't. It's all about what I'm vibing with. Like, I've walked out to Run the Jewels a few times. I've walked out to my last fight. I actually walked out to a song that was in the fight scene in that new Marvel movie Shang-Chi, because the single was out and I was listening to it because, you know, they like drop a single or two from the album before the movie comes out to hype it up. And I'm like, I really like this. And I know Shang-Chi is like a martial artist. So I'm like, what better time? So then, you know, there's been times I've been tempted to walk out to 9 to 5 from Dolly, or, you know, I've walked out to the Struts. I've walked out to the Clash. So my musical taste is everywhere.
That is very cool. I think the Clash, because I always think about what song I'd go out to. I think the Clash have got so many amazing songs. Yeah, very cool. Okay, excellent. So I think you've answered quite a few questions from our outside the cage round, which is absolutely brilliant. One of them we haven't really spoken about is around movies. So are you into movies at all?
I'm into a lot. I'm into, like I said, just with my music taste, I'm pretty open with my movie taste as well. I can watch anything from a comedy to an action film. I can watch some horror. I mean, don't make it too jumpy. I'd like more thrillers. Don't make it too jumpy. I'm probably gonna pop somebody by accident. There's
And
a
you
reason
mentioned
I also
Marvel
don't
as
go to
well.
haunted houses, just for that purpose.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marvel, so the comic book movies. Are you big on them?
Always. I'm big on all things anime and comic books. Like, the best thing I love about me and my friend Roxanne is that we could be like, reading comics and shit, and like no one would know what we do. You know, literally no one. Like, we could be at a D&D table and literally no one would know what we were capable of. And it's beautiful. Like, you got some people walking around like fully tatted and like piercing, going, "Arr," and I'm like, here I am on my day off with my comics. Here I am making Legos, and no one will know.
And I think in terms of movies, you may have been asked this one before because it's kind of one of those questions. But if you could have anyone playing you in a movie, say playing your life story, do you have anyone who comes to mind?
Oh, ScarJo. ScarJo for real.
Yeah, good choice. I mean,
Mhm.
she's cool.
She's dope.
She is very
And she
cool.
fits in every role possible. So I'm
Yeah.
down with it.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect choice. So the next round we've got is called So You Want to Be a Fighter. And the premise of this round is that I personally think you guys like are the absolute elite in terms of sport. So the level of determination that MMA requires is a level that I think most human beings can't reach. I think you guys are superhuman in what you do.
Aw.
And I think like overcoming injuries is such a big part of it and where a lot of that determination is required. So can you run us through the injuries you've had over the years and perhaps which ones have been the ones that have really taken that high level of determination to get through?
All right. So one time in my amateur career, I fought somebody who's normally a featherweight and who apparently, from what I heard from her best friend, who's now my teammate, said opponent passed out in the airport on the way to the fight venue to make weight.
Wow.
So, of course, we all rehydrate and shit. I am about 20 pounds at a 20-pound disadvantage. And I fought all 5 rounds, fought my ass off, but this entire side of my face, it was lumpy for a little bit, but I also lost sensation in this side of my face for about a month. The nerve endings were irritated from the swelling and the continuous impact from all 5 rounds.
Mm.
I'm one tough broad, I'd like to say. I messed up her ribs. She gave me, some numb feel on my face. I think that was a fair exchange. And so we have that. And I also had my labrum torn from a pretty shitty teammate. She kind of got a little moody at one point and then decided to come over me really fast. And I didn't know my labrum was torn because I've never had such a catastrophic injury.
Mm.
So that happened in the spring of like right after my pro debut because I was in camp to help her out and whatnot. And so I'm going through my spring and my summer wondering what the hell is wrong with my shoulder. Is it going to recover? So I'm going to the doctor, but apparently the doctor ordered the wrong MRI and they didn't see what was going on in my shoulder. So then I finally see a specialist who, diagnosed me with a slap tear. So it's a type of labrum tear. And I forget what it is, superior something, anterior, posterior labrum tear, whatever it was. So I had to wait until November to get myself to get my surgery, and then the rehab was painful. And then I just had to build myself up. Like, it was really hard to keep my spirits up because without my training, I'm starting to stim all over the place. Like, I'm starting to shake more like a maraca. Like, was more moody and everything when I couldn't train, and like all my sensory stuff was just way worse because when I train, like my body may be trash, but my brain feels just so much better. Like, feels
Mm.
very zened out. So everything kind of sucked for a while. I'm trying to do what I can. I'm doing strength conditioning with my legs and everything. So the one benefit was, although I couldn't work out my arms, I went from like normal legs to quadzilla essentially. And it worked. So by the time I got back in there, then I got my little date with my Invicta debut. So 3 weeks notice after a 18-month layoff. I fought against Denise Tennant to a pretty good fight, but she got the better of the judges' scorecards, and I hope to fight her soon because
Yeah.
that's something that's been stuck in my mind is I want to go pay her back a little bit.
Yeah, I want to run it back, definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, like your fights are they're fun fights to watch. So definitely be up
Yeah, I
for
mean,
seeing
it
that
may be
one.
decisions, but man, I'm always this close to finishing somebody. Like my last fight was like this close.
I know. It's so true. And I think like you mentioned about being a fighter and that determination, and how important is self-belief being a fighter and to get to that elite level where you're a pro fighter?
Self-belief is everything. If you don't have it, I mean, there's the door. I mean, self-belief and belief in yourself, your team, your training is everything. Because once you go back there with those shoulda, coulda, wouldas, which a lot of fighters still do, when you focus on that versus all the good you've done, you're tripping yourself up. You're already there. You might as well. It's like being at the top of the hill, the roller coaster. You're like, oh my God, oh my God. And then when it actually happens, you're like, oh yeah, woo. So it's the same thing. Like you're backstage, you're inching up and up and up. And then when you're finally in there and you're like, oh, this isn't horrible. I mean, it does, getting hit does suck, but I would like to think I get hurt more in training than I do in the fight, with like, rare occasions.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned about that self-belief, and like it's obvious you're clearly so focused and have that self-belief, and when like being in the public eye, it just feels like there's this like negativity that comes from things like social media that are just
Oh, they are. Because
always
everybody
there.
wants to hear
How do you
themselves
deal
talk.
with it, and like what advice would you give to anyone struggling with that kind of negativity on social media?
I just tell myself everybody wants to hear themselves talk and feel important. And if they have to feel important to the point where they got to tear somebody else down, that just tells me about them.
Hmm.
Like like if I'm in the mood and I want to just sass somebody, I'll sass them. But for the most part, I just ignore it. The mute button is my favorite button on all of social media.
Yeah, so it's just again that focus coming through really clearly, that kind of clear focus that these people don't matter. They don't matter. And I guess it's that acceptance that unfortunately at the moment they're going to be there. But it's just,
Hmm.
yeah, the focus on it. I think it's good advice. Really good
Yeah.
advice. And then inspiration wise, so who outside of MMA, do you have any kind of people that really inspire you and who you kind of go to kind of draw on that inspiration? And these inspiration can be kind of personal friends or family, but also just anyone in the general public, really.
I really draw a lot of strength from my mom and my dad. Like they both have been through a lot as kids, like things I honestly couldn't fathom, and yet they were able to like really pull themselves up and make a better life for me and my brothers and my little sister. So, I mean, they really inspire me a lot too. Outside of fighting, though, I don't have too many other role models. A lot of them are all fighting. Like
Mm.
I said, like my role model and my mentor, Roxanne Modafferi, like that's another girl who's been there and like done it all since like the dark
Legend.
ages for
Absolute
women
legend.
in martial arts. So she's my homie. Like when I first started like a decade ago training, if I talked MMA to my anime friends, they'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And if I talked anime to my MMA friends, they'd be like, "Shut up, nerd! Get on the mats." And now we're in this area where I feel both are equally embraced.
Mm.
And you're seeing it everywhere. Like there's like this one Australian fighter, Kai, I believe his name is. He has like the earth bending symbol from Avatar on him. He's got like the umbrella logo from Resident Evil on him. Like, that's my fighter now. I like this dude. That's all he had
And
to
don't you love
that's
it when you
all they
see
had to
it? It's
do.
like these little Easter eggs that you see, and not everyone's going to notice it, but when you notice it, you're like,
Hmm.
yeah, that's
It's
cool.
like, I see you. But yeah, so like little things like that. And of course, Izzy with like his anime, stuff. I'm just like, he is our king. He's our anime king.
So true. It's brought it to like the MMA mainstream, hasn't it? It's just such a huge,
Hmm.
huge
It's
thing.
so
Yeah.
funny because now we got like big brands like Adidas doing crossovers like Dragon Ball Z and
Mm,
other like Skechers and other shoe stuff doing Sailor Moon things. And I'm like, man, y'all used to pick on people like me in high school for trying to enjoy ourselves with anime. Now it's all popular. You know what? Get out of here.
I
You're not
know.
welcome.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's like everything. It's crazy. I was walking. Where was I going? I was going past one of like a really popular high street, and I think I saw there was like a band. I can't remember the band, but it was like a band T-shirt. It might have been Nirvana, and I was like, "This is probably the most anti-Nirvana thing I've ever seen." The fact that you've got this in like a really mainstream high street shop, a Nirvana
I see that
T-shirt.
all the
But
time myself, like Forever 21 and shit. I'm just like,
yeah.
oh, now I can see we have these people going like, name 3 songs, like for a band or whatever if you're wearing the shirt.
I know. Yeah, it's absolutely mad. So next round. So this is the one I was talking to you earlier about, the kind of hypothetical round. So there's no
Okay.
correct answer, really random. So the question is, you're in the Cave of Wonders and discover a magic lamp. Inside the magic lamp is a genie who grants you 3 wishes. What would your 3 wishes be?
Super healing, so I can keep training and I don't have to worry about like aches and pains when I get older because
Right, yeah. So you
I
can
got a
kind of just
50-50
touch
gamble
the
of
injury. Yeah, touch
yeah,
the
I got a
injury.
50-50 gamble of rheumatoid arthritis, and I saw what happened to my mamita with that. So we got that. I wish I could like talk to birds because I'm a big bird person. Like
Okay.
they're
Any
evolved
particular
dinosaurs.
bird?
Um, I would like to talk to cockatoos a lot because I have a pet cockatoo,
Yeah.
and I actually go to a bird sanctuary where there's a lot of like parrots and stuff and cockatoos. So I would love to see how neurotic they really are. And cockatoos are just really fun. And just like I said, evolved dinosaurs. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at their feet, they're like claws, they're dinosaurs, definitely.
Yeah, well, have you looked at the foot of like an ostrich or an emu? Like you can't look
Yeah.
at those suckers and tell me you can't see them from like dinosaur era, you know?
It's so
Especially
true.
when you hear like louder birds like parrots and stuff scream. Just imagine that like way deeper. And I'm like, yeah, that could dead ass sound like a dinosaur.
So
Mm-hmm.
true. I think it was a new, maybe new Jurassic World where they open and you see the foot and it's like it pans out and you're kind of thinking it's going to be a dinosaur and it's not. Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. So you got one more wish to have.
Oh God, one more man. Um, crap. I'm trying to think, and I don't know. Um, I have an easy way to go wherever I want in the world. I like to travel.
Like it. So
So versus being like being
transportation.
like squished in like a Spirit airline or something, like compartmentalizing myself in the and like a lawn chair of a seat in the airline. I just want a nice, easy way to like transport myself wherever I need to be because
Yeah, you
I'm
can
always in
kind
the
of go
mood.
Star Trek, couldn't you? You could be like the beam me up Scotty
Yeah,
and just
right. Beam me up, Scotty.
that would be a cool one. Okay, I think they're
Mhm.
great wishes. So next round, this is called the 10 quickfire questions round, and it kind
Okay.
of does what it says on the tin. So I'm going to give you an either or, and it's just the first one that you want to that kind of comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay, so first one, we've got Aquaman or The Flash.
Flash.
Okay, night in or night out.
Night in.
Road Dog Jesse James or the badass Billy Gunn?
Badass Billy Gunn.
Yeah. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Striking or grappling?
Striking. Let there be blood.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. Halloween or Christmas?
Christmas.
McGregor or Khabib?
Oh, that's hard because they both grind my gears in either way. I guess I'll lean towards slightly Khabib.
Movies or music?
Music.
The ability to fly or the ability to be invisible?
Definitely fly.
And then final question, fighting for $1 million or fighting for the title?
Give me that money. Title, I can't eat my belt.
Yeah, good answer. So this is the final section. I can't believe we've done half an hour already. That's gone so quickly. So, final section is just what's next. So, what's the latest on when we can see you back in the cage?
So I'm hoping this winter or early next year we get back in the cage. At this point, the doors are pretty open to me no matter what the choices are. I could fight for an Invicta title belt. I could go try out for Contender Series, or if I'm really lucky, maybe I might get signed out right to the UFC for the 35 division because they need their bantams. With 25 and 45 open, we've seen the women bounce all over the place. So
You'd be a great addition. There'd be some fun fights in there for you.
fun fights, fun personality. What more could the UFC ask for, you know?
Come on, Dana. Exactly. And then final question. So, what do you want to achieve in the next few years? So maybe next 5 years. If I interview in 5 years' time, what would you have liked to have achieved?
In the next 5 years, I hope to be at the top of the UFC, if not fighting for the belt. I really want to be a good, I want to be the role model that I never had being autistic, because I didn't know of any other, people in the autism spectrum who were successful. So I want to be that person that other people, can look up to, because I didn't have that when I was younger, and I want others to have that. So, because I'm not trying to make autism seem like it's easy, because it's a spectrum. There's people who are like me. There are people who need a bit more help. What I want to do is have more people polite and considerate of autistics around them, be they like me, be they like, other people. That's the kind of world I want. Is like, I don't want autistic people to have the stereotype of being high needs, the stereotype they see where, they're wearing a helmet or whatnot. I want them to see people like myself and everywhere in between, and just normalize it and have a nice conversation about it all.
Yeah, and I think for what it's worth, I honestly, like the whole team here, think you're an absolute inspiration. So I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And that's it. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It really has. As I say, I can't believe how quick that half an hour has gone. We can't wait to see you in action again.
That was fun.
Oh, good. Well, we can't wait to see you in action again. And just again, a really big thank you for spending the time with us this morning.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I might not even need the cup of coffee anymore.